Hello my scholars, you are welcome to the Myschool YouTube channel and my name is Frank. In today's video, we will be tackling JAMB CBT mathematics past question for the year 2025. So relax, do not go anywhere, I will be right back. You are welcome back to the Myschool YouTube channel. In today's video, we shall be solving question 21 to 40. So let's kick off with question 21. In a basket of fruits, there are 6 grapes, 11 bananas, and 13 oranges. If one fruit is chosen at random, what is the probability that the fruit is either a grape or a banana? So basically, what you just have to take note here is just the word or. Okay, so whenever you see either or, it simply means addition in probability, right? So in this question, we are asked if one fruit is chosen at random, what is the probability that the fruit is either a grape or a banana? Okay, so remember that the formula for solving probability, okay, is the number of favorable outcome all over the total number of outcome, right? So in this case, the favorable outcome is the grape and the banana, right? So for favorable outcome, we have 6 grapes, right, and 11 bananas. So in that case, we are going to add them together. So if we add them together, we'll be having 11 fruits, right, making up a grape or a banana, right? Now, the total number of fruits here, we are just going to add the fruits together. So here we'll be having 6 grapes plus 11 bananas plus 13 oranges. So that will be 30 in total, right? But remember I said probability is equals to number of favorable outcome all over number of total outcomes. So in this case, we'll be having 17 all over 30. Now, how did we get the 17? What we simply did was to add the number of grapes to the number of banana, right? Remember the question said either a grape or a banana. And take note, in probability, your concern is actually about the number of whatever they are referring to here, right? So in this case, they said a grape. So you don't just pick one grape, no. The total number of grapes is what they are referring to, or the total number of banana is what they are referring to. So in this case, we have 6. So in this case, we have the 6 plus, and that of banana is 11, okay? So that will be 6 plus 11, that will be equal to 17. So that amounts to the number of favorable outcomes, then all over the total number of all the fruits in the basket. So that will be 6 plus 11 plus 13, and that is 30, right? So the answer to this question is option A, 17 over 30. Question 22. Calculate the interior angle of a 5-sided regular polygon. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So to provide answer to this question, I'm going to be showing you 2 methods that you can do it, right? And it involves using formula. So one of them, since we are looking for we want to calculate for the size of the interior angle of a 5-sided polygon, right? So in that case, we just use this. Let's say this is the interior angle, right? So we use n minus 2 bracket 180 divided by n. So this will give us the size of the interior angle. So we can use this. But remember that in this question, n is equals to 5. So you just put your n here, and that will give you your answer. Or you can use the fact that one exterior angle, right, plus one interior angle is equals to 180 degrees, right? But remember that we can actually calculate for one exterior angle because we are giving n using 360 divided by n, right? So in this case, n is equals to 5. So here we put 5 here. So if we divide this, we'll be having 72, right? So the size of an exterior angle is equals to 72. So here we write down 72, then plus the interior angle, which is what we are looking for, is equals to 180. So we just collect like 10 since we are looking for interior angle. So here we'll be having interior angle to be equals to 180 minus 72. Right, and this will be equals to 108 degree. Okay, so the size of the interior angle is equals to 108 degree. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct option for this question, and that is option C, 108 degrees. Question 23. A banker spent 1/5 of his salary on shirts, 1/3 of the remainder on transport, and kept the rest for contingencies. What fraction was left? So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So if we are given a question like this, sometimes you can assume the man's salary to be whole, right? So when we're talking about whole, we are simply we are saying it is equals to 1, right? Or you can say, let it be any letter of your choice, right? So in this case, we are going to say, let the man's salary, okay, let the man's salary be equals to S, right? So they said he spent 1/5 of his salary on shirt. So 1/5 of S, that will be equals to X/5, right? Then they now said 1/3 of the remainder. So let's get the remainder. So that would be X minus X/5. This is actually over 1, right? So here CM is 5. So here we'll be having 5X minus X. So here we'll be having 4X/5, right? So this is the remainder. Okay, then they said the man spent 1/3 of the remainder on transport. So 1/3 of the remainder of means times 4X/5. So this is equals to 4X/15. So this is what the man spent on transport. So the question now is, what fraction of the salary is left, right? So this is what the man spent on transport, and this is what he spent on shirt. So now let's get the fraction of the salary that is left. So that will be X minus X/5 minus 4X/5, right? So SCM here is 1, sorry, over 15, okay? So SCM of 1, 5, and 15 is 15. So 1 into 15 is 15. 15 times X, that will give you 15X. Then we'll put our minus, which is this minus. Then 5 into 15, that will be 3. 3 times X is 3X, okay? Then put this minus, which is this second minus. Then 15 into 15 is 1, right? So 1 times 4X is 4X. So here, we'll be having 15S, that's the numerator, we'll be having 15S minus 7S all over 15, okay? So 15X minus 7S, that will be 8X all over 15, right? Now remember that the S here represents the salary. So basically what we are saying the man has 8/15 of his salary, right? So S represents the man's salary, right? So the fraction of the man's salary that is left is 8/15. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct option for this question, and that is option B, 8/15. Question 24. Find the probability of getting an even number in a single throw of a 6-sided die. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So the faces of a die, okay, so we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5, we have 6, right? So here the total outcome is equals to 6, okay? Then let's pick out the numbers here that are even, which is 1, 2, and 3, right? So in this case, probability of picking an even number, okay? Probability of picking an even number will be equals to 3 all over 6, right? And that will be equals to 1/2, okay? So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct option for this question, and that is option C, 1/2. Question 25. Integrate y is equals to 4x cubed plus 2x plus cos x. So let's move over to the board to integrate that problem, okay? So here we are asked to integrate y is equals to 4s cube plus 2s plus cos s, right? So to integrate this, we have y to be equals to, so let's put this s cubed plus 2x plus cos s, right? So if we integrate, here we'll be having, now basically to integrate, what you simply do is that you add 1 to the power of x, right? Then the sum, you use it to divide the whole term, right? So in this case, we're having 4s raised to the power 4 divided by 4. I added 1 to the power of x, and that gave me 4. Then I now use the 4 to divide the whole thing, okay? Then plus, now the power of x here in 2x here is 1. So if we add another 1 to it, it becomes 2, right? So that will use it to divide. So you'll be having 2x raised to the power 2 divided by 2. Then plus, now when we integrate cos, it's definitely going to be sine. So this will give us sine s. Then add our constant, right? So 4 will cancel out 4, 2 will cancel out 4. So that at the end of the day, we have y to be equals to s raised to the power 4 plus s squared, then plus sine x plus the constant, okay? So if you are having challenges with integration, then you should subscribe to the Myschool mathematics topic by topic video lesson for you to learn more about integration, differentiation, and other topics that is giving you challenge. Okay, so let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, x raised to power 4 plus x raised to power 2 plus sine x plus c. Question 26. Simplify minus log 0.00001 base 10. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So first thing first, to solve this problem on logarithm, we have to apply one of the laws of logarithm, okay? And that is when I have log a number and the base of that number, okay, the base of the log is also the same as the number, we have 1. So we are going to be using this to solve this question, right? So basically we have to convert this decimal number into standard form, right? So if we do that, we'll be having, okay, let's write it as 0.00001, right? And this will be equals to 1 times 10 raised to power 5, right? And 1 times 10 raised to power 5 is still the same thing as 10 raised to power 5, right? So this number, let's rewrite it. So we'll be having minus log 10 base, okay, log 10 raised to power 5 base 10, right? Now remember also the law of logarithm, that if you have log, let's say you have log 2 raised to power 3 all over base 2, right, for example. So what happens here is that this number here will move down to the left. So we'll be having 3 log 2, right? So we are going to apply the same idea here. So this 5 will move back, so that we'll be having minus 5, then log. Now remember that this one, we're actually moving from our left, okay, to our right. So here we are going to be having a negative power. Please take note of that, right? So here we'll have minus 5. So this minus 5 will move back, so that here we'll be having minus 5, right? So we're having minus 5, then log 10, 10, right? Log 10 base 10. So remember that log 10 base 10 is equals to 1. So that at the end of the day, we'll have minus 5 times 1, right? Minus times minus will be equals to plus, right? So you'll be having 5 times 1. So that will be equals to 5, okay? So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 5. Do you know you can take practice question with a JAMB simulated CBT past question? All you need to do is to click on the link in the description below, and that will take you to my school website. There you will need to download my school mobile app for your Android and iOS devices, and the My School software for your laptops and computers. Please go ahead and start practicing. Moving on to question 27. The chord of a circle of radius 17 centimeters is 30 centimeters long. Calculate the distance of the chord from the center of the circle. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically, if you are given a question like this, first thing first is just to represent the question using diagram, okay? So this is the diagram for the question, because in this question we are told that the chord is 30 centimeters long and the radius of the chord is 17 centimeters, right? And this is the middle of the circle. So from the middle of the circle to the chord is actually where what we are asked to calculate, right? And remember that this line actually shared the chord into 2 equal halves, okay? So this half will be 15 centimeters, while this remaining one will be 15 centimeters, and we are looking for here. So let's call it S, right? So this is like having a rectangle triangle. So here is X, here is 17 centimeters, and here is 15 centimeters. So to get the value of X, we just apply Pythagoras theorem, right? So this will be equals to S squared is equals to 17 square minus 15 square. That is when we apply Pythagoras theorem. The square of the hypotenuse is equals to the sum of the square of the opposite and that of the adjacent, right? So this is actually, it is 17 square is equals to S square plus 15 square, right? So since we are looking for S, we just make S the subject of formula, right? So here we'll be having S square is equals to 17 square minus 15 square, okay? So that's how we arrive at this stage, right? So S square is now equals to, so here, to make things easier for us, we can apply, or we can use the idea of difference of 2 squares, right? So this is like, say, 17 minus 15 in bracket, then another bracket 17 plus 15, right? So this will be equals to 2, and here this equals to 30. This equals to 32, right? 17 plus 15. So 2 times 32, that equals to 64. So we have our S square, remember. Since we are looking for S, not s squared, we have to take the square root of both sides. So s squared, then we take the square root, is equals to the 64. We also take the square root. So the square we kill off the square root, to kill off the square, so that we're having s to be equals to, of course, 64 is a perfect number. So the square root of 64 be equals to 8, right? So that means that the value of x is equals to 8 centimeters. That is the distance of the center of the circle, right, to the chord is equals to 8 centimeters. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 8 centimeters. I believe you are enjoying this video content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, put on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we upload the next videos. Question 28. Find the limit of y is equals to x raised to power 3 minus 2x squared plus 6s minus 12 in bracket all over s minus 2 in bracket as s goes to 2. So let's move over to the screen to provide answer to this question. So in this case, sometimes if you just substitute the values, okay, into the given fraction, right, you might get the answer. But sometimes if you do, you may not, right? So in this case, let's try and substitute the 2 into this. So if we do that, we are going to be having 0 over 0, right? And this is not the answer. So what do you do? In this case, we just divide, right? We use polynomial division, right, to get the answer to this. So you'll be having x raised to power 3 minus 2s squared plus 6x minus 12. Then we divide by x minus 2, right? So we use x to divide s raised to power 3, and that will give us s squared, right? Now this s squared, we use it to multiply x, and that will give us s cubed, right? Then we use this s squared to multiply minus 2, and that will give us minus 2s squared, right? So we draw a line and we put our minus sign. So we subtract. S cubed minus s cubed is 0. Then minus 2s squared minus 2s squared, that will also be 0. So we bring these two numbers that are left down. So you'll have 6x and you'll have minus 12, right? So we divide again. So x divided by 6x, okay, that will give us plus 6, right? Then we use this 6 to multiply the x, and that will give us 6x, right? Then 6 times minus 2, that will give us minus 12. So we do the same thing, we subtract again. So plus 6 minus 6x plus 6s minus 6s, that will be 0, right? Then minus 12x minus minus. Now remember that minus will always change to plus. So minus 12 minus 12, that will also give us 0, okay? That is to say that when s raised to power 3 minus 2s squared plus 6x minus 12 is divided by x minus 2, your answer is equals to s squared plus 6, right? So in that s squared plus 6, we can now substitute the value of x. So remember that as s goes to 2, so here we replace this with 2. So you'll be having 2 in bracket raised to power 2 plus 6. And this equals to 4 plus 6, and that equals to 10, right? That equals to 10. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 10. Question 29. The second and fifth terms of a GP are 1 and 1 over 8 respectively. Find the common ratio. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question, okay? So remember that the first term of a GP is A, right? And the second term is A arrow. And this is gotten from the fact that the nth term of a GP is given as A arrow raised to power n minus 1, right? So if you are talking about the first term, you just play this n with 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. And anything raised to power 0 is 1. So that's why the first term is A. The second term, you do the same thing. You are going to be having A arrow as the second term, right? Now, since in this question we are told that the second term, which is A arrow, we are told that it's equals to 1. Then the fifth term, so in this case, the fifth term will be equals to A arrow raised to power 4, okay? And they said it's equals to 1 over 8, right? So we can call this equation 1, we can call this equation 2. So what do we do next? We simply divide equation 2 by equation 1. So that will be having A arrow raised to power 4 divided by A arrow is equals to 1 over 8 divided by 1. right? So A will kill off A. Of course, here we can apply the law of indices. So when we apply the law of indices to the R, we'll be having R raised to power 3 is equals to, of course, this is also 1 over 8, right? But remember that 1 over 8 is still the same thing as 8 raised to power minus 1, right? Remember this from the law of indices. So we have to take the cube root of both sides to get the value of R, right? So you'll have R raised to power 3 is equals to 8 raised to power minus 1, right? So we can break this down further. So here we'll be having R raised to power 3 is equals to, so here will be 2 raised to power minus 3, right? Because, okay, this is 2 raised to power 3 in bracket minus 1, right? So R raised to power 3 will now be equals to 2 raised to power minus 3, okay? We cannot take the cube root of both sides. So if we take the cube root of both sides, we'll be having arrow raised to power 3, the cube root of arrow raised to power 3 will now be equals to the cube root of 2 raised to power minus 3. But remember that cube root also means the same thing as this. Means the same as raised to power 1 over 3. So 3, we cancel out 3. So that at the end of the day here, we have 2 raised to power minus 1. And 2 raised to power minus 1 is still the same thing as 1 over 2, right? So the cube root will kill off the cube so that R is equals to 1 over 2, okay? So the common ratio of the GP is equals to 1 over 2. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct option for this question, and that is option C, 1 over 2. Question 30. An amount of 600,000 naira was realized when a principal Y was saved for 5% simple interest for 4 years. Find the value of Y. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So we know that amount is equals to principal plus interest, right? And interest is equals to principal times rate times time, right? So I know you are expecting the over 100, right? Of course, the over 100 is as a result of the rate, because the rate is always given in percentage. So if I have 5%, it simply means 5 over 100, okay? So that's why when you are solving for simple interest, actually, this place, you just put 5 instead of 5 over 100 because you already have that 100. But in this case, we can put the 5 over 100, right? So let's just substitute this into this formula here, right? So amount is equals to principal, then plus the interest, that is P arrow T. Okay, so here we can factor out P so that A is equals to P bracket upon 1 plus arrow T, right? But remember that our rate is equals to 5 over 100 because it's 5%, right? So 5 divided by 100, that will be 0.05, okay? So in place of arrow, we are going to put 0.05. So, but remember that the amount given to us is 600,000. So let's just put these values. It's equals to the principal is Y, then 1 plus the rate 0.05, then times the year, right? So the 600,000 will be equals to Y, then bracket upon 1 plus, so 0.05 times 4, that will be equals to 0.20, right? So that 1 plus 0.20, that will now be equals to 1.20. So that our 600,000 is equals to Y bracket upon 1.20. Of course, remember that bracket means times. So you'll be having 600,000 to be equal to 1.20Y. Okay? So since we are looking for the value of Y, we simply divide both sides by the coefficient of Y, and that is 1.2. So that you'll be having Y is equals to 600,000 divided by 1.20. Okay? But remember that 1.20 is equals to 120 all over 100, right? Okay, so we can as well just say it's the same thing as 12 over 10. So that here, we'll now be having 600,000 divided by, okay, so let's put it here, divided by 12 over 10. So this becomes 600,000 times 10 all over 12, okay? So 12 here is 1. 12 into 60 is 5. So here we have 50,000 times 10. That equals to 500,000. Okay, so the value of y, which is the principal, is equals to 500,000 naira. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 500,000 naira. Question 31. Given the progression 3, 5, 7, 9, find an expression for the n minus 2 and 10 of the progression. So let's move over to this board to provide answer to this question. So from the progression, okay, the first term there is 3, while the common difference is 2, right? That is 5 minus 3, or 7 minus 5, or 9 minus 7, that is 2, right? But remember the formula for calculating the nth term of an AP, okay, is given as A plus n minus 1, then D, right? So let's fill in those values. So here our first term is 3, then plus n minus 1 bracket, sorry, the common difference is 2, minus 2, we have 2 here, right? So that we'll be having 3 plus n minus 1, 2, okay? So let us not repeat this, right? So let's just open this bracket. So we'll be having 3 plus 2n minus 2, right? So if we simplify this further, we'll be having 1 plus 2n, because here we're having 3 minus 2, then plus 2n, right? But remember, in this question we are asked to find an expression for the n minus 2th term, right? So in this case, they are actually telling us to replace n with n minus 2, okay? So anywhere we see n, we replace with n minus 2. So here we're having 1 plus 2 bracket n minus 2. So actually we are looking for the n term, which is here we'll be having t, then n minus 2 term, okay? So this is what we are looking for, the expression, right? So if I open this bracket, we'll be having 1 plus 2n minus 4, okay? So 1 minus 4, that will give us minus 3 plus 2n. So we can rearrange this. So if we rearrange this, we'll be having 2n minus 3, okay? So 2n minus 3 is the expression for the n minus 12th term, okay? So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option D, 2n minus 3. Question 32. Find the derivatives of y is equals to sine 4x. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. Now remember that the word derivative is another word for differentiate, okay, or differentiation. So y is equals to sine 4s, right? So here we say let u be equals to 4s, so that y is equals to sine u, right? So now the next step is to differentiate y with respect to u, so that this will be equals to cos u, right? So when I differentiate sine, that will be equals to cos, right? So this will be equals to cos u. Now the next step is to differentiate u with respect to x, which is, now remember here we said let u be equals to 4s. So if I differentiate 4s, that will be equals to 4, okay? But remember that the y ds is equals to the y du times du dx, right? So we just bring in the values of these differentiations. So the y du gave us cos u, right? Then times du ds actually gave us 4. So if we put this properly, we'll be having 4 cos u. But remember that u is equals to 4s. So we are going to replace this u with 4s, okay? So that y is now equals to, so that the y ds is now equals to 4 cos 4s, okay? So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option D, 4 cos 4s. Question 33. If a is equals to theta over 360 times pi r squared, make theta the subject of the formula. So let's move to the board to provide answer to this question. So we are asked to make theta the subject of formula in this formula, right? So basically the denominator of this fraction here is actually a is equals to theta pi r squared all over 360, right? So the first step is just to cross multiply. So if we cross multiply, we're having 360a is equals to theta pi r squared, right? Now since we are looking to make theta the subject of formula, we simply divide both sides by the coefficient of theta, and that is pi arrow square. So I'll divide here by pi arrow square and also divide here by pi arrow square. So pi arrow square will take out pi arrow square, so that at the end of the day theta is now equals to 360a all over pi arrow square. Okay, so we are done making theta the subject of formula. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer, and that is option C. Theta is equals to 360a all over 2 pi arrow square. Question 34. What is the minimum value of y is equals to 2 minus 4x minus 2s squared? Okay, so let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So looking at this quadratic equation here, you find out that what is given to us here is quadratic, right? And here we are having a negative coefficient of s squared. Okay, so by having a negative coefficient of s squared, there's no way the value of y is going to be minimum. So probably in this question, they wanted to say maximum, right? So basically what we are going to be doing is that we are going to be solving for the maximum value of y and not the minimum value of y. Because for the minimum value of y, there's no answer. Because the minus here is already telling us that this is going to result in a maximum value and not a minimum value, right? So here we are going to be using the vectors formula, right? We are going to be using the vectors formula. So the vectors formula, s is given to us minus b all over 2a, right? So just for us to get the value of x, then we now substitute it into this quadratic equation to get the value of y. Okay, so here our a is equals to minus 2, which is the coefficient of s squared, and our b is equals to minus 4, which is the coefficient of x. So s is equals to minus, then here we have minus 4 all over 2 brackets minus 2, right? So here we're having minus, then let's put this in bracket, minus 4 all over minus 4. So minus will kill off minus, 4 into 4, that will give us 1. So minus times 1, that equals to minus 1. So the value of s is equals to minus 1. So this value of s will now substitute it into this quadratic equation. So y is equal to 2 minus 4s minus 2s squared, right? So anywhere we see s, we simply replace it with minus 1. So that y is equals to 2 minus, then we have 4, then minus 1, then minus 2, bracket minus 1 square. Okay? So y is equals to 2. Then remember, minus times minus is going to give us plus. So you have plus 4. Then minus 1 square is going to give us 1. Okay? Because here you're actually having minus 1 times minus 1. And that will be 1. So you'll be having minus 2. Okay? So 2 minus 2, that will cancel out. So that at the end of the day, y is equals to 4. So for this question, it's actually the maximum value and not the minimum value. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A. So please take note, this question, probably they were referring to maximum value and not minimum value, because by just looking at the quadratic equation, you will just know that the value of y is going to be maximum because the coefficient of s squared here is negative minus 2. Okay, so that's why option A is the correct answer to this question. Question 35. If the probability of death is Q and the probability of survival is P, find the probability of 1 death and 1 survivor in an accident involving 2 persons. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So given this question, you have to be careful in finding the probability because there's no specific. They didn't say first person dead or second person survive or second person dead, first person survive. Okay, so they only said 1 is dead and 1 survived in an accident involving 2 persons. So in that case, okay, so we can say first person, though they were not specific, first person died, okay, and second person survived, okay, second person survived, or first person survived, then second person dead, right? So in this case, we'll be having, now remember, and means times, right? So in this case, first person dead and the probability of death is Q. So you'll be having Q times or times P for survivor. While here, we'll be having P times Q, right? Of course, Q times P is still the same thing as PQ, right? But remember the or here, or means addition. So in this case, the probability of one dead and one survived, or one survivor, will be equals to PQ times, plus PQ, right? So this will be equals to 2PQ, right? But then, if you check the option carefully, discover that there's no 2PQ. So in this case, we are going to choose the option that is closest to our answer, and that is PQ, okay? So let's return back to the screen to pick that option, and that is option B, PQ. Question 36. Given the construction in the figure above, what is angle Z? Okay, so the construction above is triangle XYZ, but in this case we are asked to look for angle Y, right? So if you look at the construction very well, if we take a straight line here, we'll be having 90, right? So if you check this part and this part that is given to us, right, you discover that this part that is left on this side is smaller than this, right? So in that case, we can conclude that this part that is given to us is equals to 60 degrees, okay? So the answer to this question is option A, okay? So the construction given in the figure above, the angle of Y there is 60 degrees. If you have questions to ask, please feel free to ask your question by clicking on the link in the description below, and that will take you to my school website. There you can ask all your questions, and our team of solution providers will provide answers to all your questions within a short period of time. Moving on to question 37. Convert 137 to base 5. So if no base is indicated, you just know that it is in base 10, okay? So more or less like they are saying convert 137 in base 10 to base 5. So let's move over to the board to do that. So if you are converting from base 10 to any other base, you simply use the successive division method, okay? So here we're having 5, and here we will have 137, okay? So we just keep dividing. So 5 into 13, that will be 2 remainder 3. So we'll put the 3 here. 5 into 37, that will be 7 remainder 2. Okay, then 5 we divide again. 5 into 27, that will be 5 remainder 2. Then 5 into 5, that will be 1 remainder 0. Then 5 into 1, that will be 0 remainder 1. So once you have 0 here, you stop dividing, right? And you read your answer upward, okay, from bottom to up. Okay, so that 137 in base 10 is equals to 1022 in base 5, okay? So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A, 1022 in base 5. Do you have better solutions or step to any of these questions? Please share this information by going to the comment section to indicate the question number and the explanation you wish to share. Question 38. P is partly constant and varies partly as Q. If P is equals to 32 when Q is equals to 16, and P is equals to 20 when Q is equals to 12, find P when Q is equals to 28. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. Okay, so mathematically, that statement P is partially constant and varies partly as Q is written as P is equals to A plus, you can say BQ, right? So these are the constants, A and B, right? So from the first statement, we are told that P is equals to 32. So you'll write 32. So we have A plus B, and Q is 16. So let's just write 16B, right? So we'll call this equation 2. So for the second statement, we are told that P is equals to 20. So here we have 20, and Q is 12. So we have A plus then 12B here, right? Since the Q is equals to 12. So now we have two equations which we can solve simultaneously, right? So here we are going to be using the elimination method, because in the first equation we have the coefficient of a to be equals to 1, and in the second equation we also have the coefficient of a to be equals to 1, right? So, but if the coefficients are not the same, you can actually make them the same, okay? But since this one is already the same, there's no need for us to make it the same. So in this case, we are going to be subtracting equation 2 from equation 1. Okay, so 32 minus 20, that will be equals to 12, right? A minus A, it will cancel out, right? So here we'll be having 16 minus 12, 16b minus 12b, that will equals to 4b, right? So since we are looking for b, we divide both sides by the coefficient of b, and that is 4. So that b is equals to 12 divided by 4, and that is 3. Okay, so the value of b is equals to 3. Now this value of b, we can put it in any of the equation. So let's put it in equation 2, right? Let's put it in equation 2. So equation 2 is 20 is equals to a plus 12b, right? So write 20 is equals to a plus. So in place of this b, we replace it with 3, right? So you'll be having 12, then 3. Now 20 will be equals to a plus. Now 3 times 12, that will be 36, right? So since we are looking for a, we simply make it the subject of formula. So you'll be having a is equals to 20 minus 36, because this 36 will move down to this side. So that will be having a is equals to 20 minus 36. So that a is equals to minus 16. Right? Now that I've gotten the value of A and the value of B, but remember in this question we are asked to find the value of P when Q is given to us to be equals to 28, right? So we can as well use any of the equation. So let's use the first equation. We have P is equals to A plus BQ, right? So this is the expression for the question. So we are looking for the value of P when Q is equals to 28. So we are not supposed to write anything here for P. So we have P is equals to, but we know our A to be equals to minus 16, then plus our B to be equals to 3. So here we have 3. But our Q is equals to 28. So we'll put the 28 here. Okay, so this is what we are supposed to do. So here we'll be having P is equals to minus 16, then plus, so let's see what we have here. 3 times 8, that is 24. So we write down 4 and we carry 2. So 3 times 2, that is 6 plus 2, that is 8. So we have P is equals to minus 16 plus 84, right? So minus 16 plus 84, that will be equals to 68. So that P is equals to 68, okay? So the value of P is equals to 68 when Q is equals to 28. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct option for this question, and that is option A, 68. Question 39. The word handier can be arranged in how many ways? Okay, so the word handier can be arranged in, so you simply count the number, the letters of the word, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that is 7 factorial, right? Now, but if you check the word handier, there's no letter that repeats itself, like there's no letter that is repeated. So we only have one H, one A, one N, one D, one I, one E, one R. So there's no need for you to divide. So remember that 7 factorial is the same thing as 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, right? So these first 3 numbers will amount to 210, right? Then times, now these last 3 numbers will amount to 24, right? Because 4 times 3 is 12, then times 2 is 24. So 210 times 24, that will be equals to 5,040, okay? So that means the word handier can be arranged in 5,040 ways, okay? So that makes option D the correct answer for this question. Question 14. From the table above, estimate the mode of the distribution, right? So mode simply means the most occurring data, right? So from the table above, first of all, let's identify the modal class, right? So the modal class here is 30 to 39. Why? Because it has the highest frequency, right? So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question, right? So in this question, we are asked to estimate the mode of the distribution, but now we've already identified the modal class, which is here. Okay, so to solve this, we actually need a formula, and the formula is given as, so let mode is equals to L1 plus change or data 1 all over data 1 plus data 2 in bracket times C. Okay, so I'm going to be telling you what each of these represent. So L1 here represents the lower class boundary of the modal class, right? So let's get the lower class boundary, okay, of the modal class. So this is the modal class, right? So to get the lower class boundary, what you simply do is the upper class interval, right, which is this, before it, this is this, right? You subtract it from the lower class boundary of the next class interval, right? So this will be 30 minus 29, and that will be equals to 1. So that 1, you divide it by 2, and that will be equals to 0.5, okay? So this 0.5, right, you subtract it from the lower class interval, right, and add it 0.5 to the upper class interval, okay? So the class boundary for the modal class will be 29.5. Why? Because I removed 0.5 from here, and then the upper class boundary will be 39.5 because I added 0.5 to it. Okay, so that is what you do to get your class boundary. Right now, data 1 here is equals to F1 minus F0. Okay, so F1 is the frequency of the modal class. So in this case, F1 is 12, right? Why? F0 is the frequency before the modal class. So this is the frequency before the modal class, 6, right? So this will be equals to 12 minus 6, and that will be 6, okay? Why data 2 is F1 minus F2, okay? So we already know what F1 represents. Now, F2 represents the frequency after the modal class. So this is the frequency after the modal class, that is 8. So here we'll be having 12 minus 8, and that equals to 4, right? Then our class size is just the difference between the upper class boundary and the lower class boundary, okay? And that will be equals to 10, which is 39.5 minus 29.5, that is equals to 10. Okay, so we know our C to be equals to 10. So our L1 is equals to 29.5, which is the lower class boundary. So now that we've gotten all these values, we just substitute it into this formula. So that we'll be having 29.5 plus, so let's put this place in bracket. So our data 1 is 6 from here, so put 6 here, over 6 plus 4, okay? So the 4 represents the data 2. Then times class size, okay, which is equals to 10, right? So here we'll be having 29.5 plus, so 6 plus 4, that will be equals to 10. So 6 divided by 10, that will be 0.6. So I have 0.6 times 10. Remember, if you are dealing with this according to board maths, first of all, deal with the multiplication first before addition, right? So this will be 0.6 times 10. So 0.6 times 10 will be equals to 6. So that will now be having 29.5 plus 6. So 29.5 plus 6 will be equals to 35.5, right? So if you check the options carefully, we don't have any 35.5, okay? But we choose the value that is closest to 35.5, and that is 34.5, okay? So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer, and that is 34.5. So I believe you enjoyed this video content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, put on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.